Okay, I believe we can start now. I would like to welcome everyone on this thematic table on data. This thematic table on data is part of the summit that is now happening, the European Regions for Smart Communities, which is gathering local and regional communities to share a common vision for a smarter tomorrow. There are a number of thematic tables that I'm going to look at it because there are many. So it's smart health, energies, farming, data, that's where we are, culture, governance, smart mobility, smart tourism, interoperability, media, skills, and security. So there are 12, and I hope you can follow as many as you need. I am remembering everyone that this session is being also broadcast on YouTube, so that even later on people can still look at what is being said. We have 3 presentations this afternoon. One from Mr. Diego Lopez de Pina, I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, which is an associate professor and principal researcher of MoreLab, envisioning future internet group of University of Deusto in Bilbao, Spain. He is currently focusing his work on the role of citizens as active data contributors to the knowledge of communities modeled as a knowledge graph. He has also been a PhD supervisor in a number of dissertations and taken part in several big consortium-based research European projects. Also, on the mobile computing, cloud computing, semantic web, social data mining, linked open data, social robotics, smart cities, and open government. So many data-related projects. Also, Mr. Martin Wagner from Atos Research and Innovation Spain. Martin Wagner is a mechanical engineer and also a systems engineer. And he is currently a senior consultant at Atos Research and Innovation, focused on utility services for the development of smart cities, and worked as a project manager on energy-related projects. He has 35 years of experience working with business processes, data management, and best practices defined by ITIL and COBIT for organizations in Spain, Portugal, USA, and Latin America. He has also worked with customers from market segments like banks, insurance, telecommunication, industry, and public administrations. Welcome you both. I am also presenting our colleague Thanasis Trifaridis, which is not being present today, although he shared this presentation with us. Thanasis Trifaridis is a senior research associate and cert at ITI, and he is an electrical and computer engineer with a master's degree in information systems. He has a 15-year experience in technical and project management in both FP7 and H2020 EU projects. He also has been active in the field of smart grids and innovative demand response flexibility programs, and he has further been involved in energy efficiency optimization, occupancy detection and prediction algorithms, semantics, and visual analytics. So these will be our main topics and our main presentations for this afternoon. Regarding the agenda for today's for this session, we will have these presentations, about 15 to 20 minutes each presentation. And we'll then have a roundtable debate around this theme, for which we will also count on the presence and our rapporteurs, which is Javier Serrano from Boston IT, which is a mechanical engineer with a master's degree in industrial engineering and also master's degree in PMO. He has experience management of R&D and I projects, as well as the relationship with clients and funding agencies specialized in technological projects. And also Andrea Cimino from Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. He is a postdoc researcher at the Artificial Intelligence Department of the Computer Science Faculty of Universidad Politécnica de Madrid in the Ontology Engineering Group. He obtained his PhD in software engineering at the Universidad de Sevilla in 2019, and he is currently involved in standardization bodies and in the program committees of conferences and workshops that are most relevant in this field. His research activities focus on semantic interoperability, data integration, and IoT discovery. And I am very pleased to say that all of these great people are from partners of the Aurora project, which is one of the main drivers for this conference, along and organizers, along also with our colleagues from the Rural, a partner a twin project, let's say, and also from Open Agile Smart Cities. And the summit is also organized by CCDR Alentejo, which the development agency from Alentejo, ADRAL, Initiative Alentejo Europe, and also Irradiar. And now, without further ado, and I am running out of time myself, I would like to ask Mr. Diego Lopez de Pina to start his presentation. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ray, and welcome everybody to my presentation. So this is the title of the topic today, my talk today. So basically I want to talk about how to transit towards smart communities by putting a lot of importance on the role that citizens, end users, stakeholders in different communities can play towards also improving the knowledge that is being gathered in those communities. So basically, this presentation is a mix of several past contributions in diverse related projects, European projects, that now they try to confluence into the Aurora project, where, as we highlighted, my group is also taking part. So first of all, I would like to start introducing the paradigm of Internet of People, which basically tries to give place to solutions, to systems that are more human-centric, that take much more into account the human standpoint on everything. So we should not forget that despite the emergence of AI, despite the emergence of the data economy, we cannot forget that whatever developments that we produce, they should be they should have people in the center. So this is the reason why from my research group we keep trying to contribute to research projects where we envisage or dream on creating smarter environments, smarter villages, smarter cities, where somehow there is an ever-growing, trusted collaboration between machine intelligence and human intelligence. Okay, so in the following slides, I'm gonna be talking to you about how we are giving place to this new way of developing technology more focused on the end users. I mean, this is also a current very important trend, highly relevant for the smart communities and research community, and also being proposed and pushed right now from the European Commission through the topic called Internet of Humans, which after all has an incredible resemblance with this paradigm of Internet of People that we see. It is a mix of AI, IoT, advanced human-computer interaction, and the application also of behavioral and social sciences in order to make not only devices that surround people change their behavior, but also educate users to adapt their behavior accordingly, and so, for instance, contribute to greener environments, less energy wasting environments. Okay, so now that we have talked about people, let's talk about places, and let's try to come up with a proper definition of what a smart place could be. There are different definitions out there, and for instance, if we seek for a good definition of smart cities, we may encounter this one provided by Anthony Townsend that says that smart cities are places where information technology is combined with infrastructure, architecture, everyday objects, and even our bodies to address social, economic, and environmental problems. Then the European Commission, through the EU Actions for Smart Villages, defines that smart villages are rural areas and communities which build on their existing strengths and assets, as well as on developing new opportunities where traditional and new methods and services are enhanced by means of digital telecommunication technologies, innovations, and the better use of knowledge. Okay, so I have also adopted the one recommendation of definition with, associated to the smart sustainability city concept to try to put the focus of today's talk. For me, a smart place is an innovative and sustainable place that uses information, data, and communication technologies and other means to what? To improve the quality of life, the efficiency of urban-rural operation and services, and the competitiveness whilst ensuring that it meets the needs of present and future generations with respect to economic, social, and environmental aspects. So it is indeed a very long definition of what a smart place is. But for me, the word smart means that we give place to smarter people, to better informed people that make a smart use of technology to help them progressing in different key aspects like economic aspects, social aspects, and why not never forgetting the environmental aspects and the impact that technology may have on reducing this important aspect of life. So for me in order to give place to smart places and concretely to smart villages, we cannot neglect the huge importance of the people in those places. I mean, devices are important. Technology, algorithms, and data are also very important. But above all, we need those places to be inclusive and participative, focused around users. So we need somehow to empower the citizens and the stakeholders in those regions to benefit from the ICT infrastructure, from the data infrastructure that we may be able to provide them. So in order to achieve these more participative environments, and in this case, taking into account the focus of our rural project and rural environments, we can think of creating ubiquitous rural apps and services that basically assist citizens in their daily activities, in their working activities, in their educational activities, in their mobility activities, in this case, in the rural context. We also need to take into account that that in order to be able to produce next generation services, smart services, we somehow need to aggregate, to interlink the information that is being gathered in all those transactions, in those interactions that different people, different stakeholders take with the rural environment. And there it is important to ensure every time that data is captured that our human rights are respected, that data regulations are also observed, okay? Because after all, we want to create systems that support our activities in the rural environments, systems that are trusted by then citizens, by then stakeholders. So it is clear that it's a huge challenge to be able to correlate, link, exploit these humongous amount of data, very heterogeneous, that are being generated in those transactions that each of us may have with the environment where we live, where we work, which might be a urban environment or it might be a rural environment. So we also think that users can have a more active role in this smart environments. They don't only need to act as consumers that use this information, and that sometimes is democratize the access to that information through different applications and services that are offered to them. But we can also turn users into continuous prosumers of information that help us extending and enriching the data that IoT devices and other applications might be generating in a continuous manner. However, whenever you let users generate data, quality is one of the main risks. Often, people that have a very good will, they are very willing to contribute, but in that process, they introduce noise, they introduce data which is not very accurate, okay? And also, it is very hard to encourage citizens to contribute in a sustainable, long-term manner. So on one side, it's great if we can have a more active involvement of people, but on the other hand, whenever they involve, we have to take care of what they contribute actually adds quality to our repositories of knowledge. So we've been working in my group through several iterations on how to enhance the collaboration between citizens and open government processes. We have actually realized that this is pretty hard because you all know how big expectations open data portals have created for the last decade in many places across Europe, and regretfully, while the overall quality of those portals is not that great, and although there has been also a big investment on trying to democratize the e-services that are created around that open data, regretfully the take-up, it has never been as big as we would all have expected. So in this slide, you can see some listings of past projects that have tried to ensure a bigger acceptance and adoption of e-services and a better usage and exploitation of open data portals. So one example of that, for instance, was WeLive, that was trying to promote the creation of user-driven co-created public services. Another project was Simpatico, where we tried to democratize these services by applying, in this case, machine learning techniques, NLP, simplification techniques together with human intelligence. I will give a quick example in the next slide to add some more context about what we try to do in Simpatico. And now, currently, well, in Aurora, we also want to produce an infrastructure, an architecture that is going to be piloted and where we will want to engage large groups of users in different sectors that benefit from a smart exploitation of the data that is being gathered in those pilot sites in those communities. So not directly linked to data, but just linked to services grounded on top of the data was, as I said, the Simpatico project, where we had the chance to ensure that everybody, elderly people that don't have a huge acquaintance with IT technologies, was able to consume e-services, but they had many difficulties in that process because they couldn't understand the language used by public administrations when they publish e-services, or they encounter many issues while trying to fulfill the administrative forms. So for that, we devised an interesting tool called Citizenpedia, which basically augments the usual e-services with some key contextual question and answer engine, and allowed people to guide them while they were filling in their services. Anyway, we realized that systems like Citizenpedia allow end citizens to annotate e-services, to annotate data sets, and to complain, to raise issues of quality, issues of usability that might be associated to them. But then, when we try to exploit the benefits that such a incorporation of this infrastructure would have in public administrations, we realized that often civil servants were reluctant to moderate the content generated by users and that end users, although initially they were very motivated, if they didn't get later feedback associated to their contributions, they quickly basically diminished their interest and stopped contributing to the enhancement of public services and public data. So one important conclusion of this experience in both in the WeLive and Simpatico project was that the involvement of humans in tasks that allow to improve services and data, human computation, is appealing, but it is very hard to ensure that they will contribute in the long term. So that was the problem number one when you want to involve users, helping you improving public good services and public good data. Besides, associated to data, there is a clear problem. No? There is a huge chasm between what the data offers and what are the expectations of citizens. We cannot assume that there is a big percentage of the population that is going to have the skills and the tools to be able to give sense to the data that is being gathered and published in the portals of different public administrations of cities, villages, regions, and so on and so forth. So in another attempt to try to bring users closer, citizens closer to open data portals and to help them also enhancing the overall quality of the data provided, we came up with this solution called Audablock, which basically is about supporting or giving small rewards to those people that contribute to improvements to different contents, to different data sets in those open data portals. Okay, so we thought that, okay, initially, until there is a full understanding of the benefits of that contribution, we need, in order to engage bigger numbers of people in these collaboration aspects, to devise certain incentivization mechanisms. And one of them could be possible thanks to the emerging blockchain technology that allows you to audit and also to reward, because after all, on top of this technology, the token economy concept is enabled. So that way you can audit the contributions and also distribute rewards in an untampered and fully trusted manner with users. So incentivization is key, and also the direct involvement of end users in the co-design, co-implementation, and even the co-exploitation might also be the route to achieve a higher engagement of citizens. And this is the thing that we did in a past project called WeLive and in a current H2020 project called Interlink, where we are going to try to make sure that you don't only provide people building blocks to create new public services, like for instance, a context broker that allows you to aggregate different types of information, but also you need to provide them some other building blocks that allow to put in place some business models that will allow those people engaged in the co-creation of a given service to later on be able to maintain such a service with the incomes being generated through the users' adoption of the community of such a service. Okay, so I was supposed to be talking about data. I've been talking a bit about how people can consume and prosume new data. And to finish off my talk this afternoon, I want to talk about how could rural intelligence be established as a common for all the stakeholders in those regions to take advantage of it. So first of all, let's discuss a bit about the heterogeneous data that can be gathered in a rural environment, which is, after all, very similar to the heterogeneous data that can be gathered in any sort of environment. We will have, on one hand, open government data, we will have user supply data, we will have public and also private sector data, with the fact that more and more emerging private data marketplaces are appearing. And also we will have, why not, the personal data, no? That thanks to the latest innovation, hopefully we will be able to govern better than what we've done so far, where we delegated the power of managing that data to big corporations. So it is key that raw data is the key ingredient to achieve rural intelligence, which basically is about giving sense to the correlation and analysis of raw data in the rural context. And how can that be achieved? It can be achieved by exploring, trying to gain insights about the digital traces that are left by rural citizens, stakeholders in their daily interactions in a rural environment. So in a rural, we will try, among other things, to try to contribute to this idea of passing from open rural data to open rural knowledge, basically information that can be directly consumed and exploited by whatever value-added services that want to make use of it. So this could be an idea of how open knowledge can be distilled from raw knowledge in the top layer, coming from public administration, from infrastructure and sensors deployed in farms, in different parts of the rural environment, by the social perception gathered through social networks, and how this data, well, first of all, has to be modeled, has to be exported with as much metadata as possible in order to distill from it knowledge that would lead us to open decisions. In further talks of today's afternoon, of this afternoon, you'll have more clear examples on how we are going to try to do such information or knowledge distilling infrastructure as the one that I am displaying in this slide. So I have this dream of passing from open data portals into open knowledge graphs or open knowledge portals, where basically more enriched information, easily exploitable, is going to be increasingly being made available to those working in different industrial sectors like mobility, industry, rural exploitations, and so on and so forth. Important to notice that when I talk about open knowledge graphs, I'm not necessarily talking about free knowledge graphs. It is key that data is the new oil. It is key and clear that many of us, we also want to take some benefits, some profit out of the work we do, trying to transform raw data into information. So the same that big corporations have been doing, like Google, in order to enhance its search engine and transform it into a question and answer engine, we should do the same in all the regions of Europe, trying to contribute to open knowledge graphs where public and private data is nested and is being exploited through well-documented APIs, through well thought through data governance and data sovereignty policies. So with that, we will hopefully achieve this actionable open knowledge that will be truly to the service of rural citizens and enterprises, as is the case here of this diagram, where you see that Internet of Things, people interacting with those things in those environments, are continuously consuming information that is distilled, transformed that data into that information that will also support decision support systems in order to aid them improving their windmills and other kind of infrastructure which may have different purposes in a rural environment as Aurora wants to push. So this was it from my side. If you want to ask any questions, now I'm open to whatever questions, suggestion, feedback you may provide.
Thank you, Diego. I welcome our guests to address any questions that you may have to Diego at this moment. Well, if not, I may just pose one. Um, Diego, you were talking about the private data and the contribution, let's say, of data by citizens and so on, and also on the usage of this data by knowledge graphs that may not be free, eventually open, but not free. What do you think will come in the future, by your experience, regarding the ways of creating and even storing data? Will it be more like a decentralized silos of data that would gather together by hopefully open and free knowledge graphs? And how does data get in the way of this? Because if it is produced by someone and it eventually belongs to that entity, how can it be used by other entities, and how is data ownership here among the way?
Mhm. Well, it's a quite challenging question.
Sorry.
So I mean, I see two things. I see that on one side there should be an evolution of the truly good open data portals, the ones that don't only have the name, but they actually have the spirit to deliver a service to society and to the economic sector. So those open data portals definitely need to go better, and they should be improved continuously. Also by getting corrections and curation contributions from the citizens. And on the other hand, in parallel, I'm sure that there are going to be emerging some private data marketplaces. Some of them hopefully will comply with some of the data marketplace specifications that are being proposed in Europe and somewhere else, so that interoperability among those data marketplaces may be guaranteed. But in that case, obviously, there'll be some private stakeholders who will be taking care of those data portals and will also trying to charge us for the access to those data sets. Although in most cases, they're going to be simply brokers. No, they basically will have the technology and the methodologies that will ensure that whoever is the supplier of data can govern where, when, how, and by how much the access to their provided data is being used by others. Also, so definitely there is a humongous work ahead of us in order to ensure that yeah, that the private, also personal data, of course, but I'm more talking about industrial value data is being exploited by third parties by means of the mediation of these brokers or data marketplaces.
Okay, thank you. Let's hope that all our data is put into good use and it can create more knowledge. Any other question for Diego? I believe not, and so we may welcome Martin for his presentation. And Diego, if you can stop, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me start to share. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes, perfect, Martin.
Hey, thank you, Roy. Good afternoon to all participants. As introduced, my name is Martin Wagner, and I want to talk a little bit about the digitalization of farm markets. The focus of Aurora approach is more or less to enhance rural ecosystems by providing their communities with digital tools and services to be used from our point of view, of course, at their farm markets. We understand that these farm markets are places where farmers can sell their products like human, animals, plants, and everything else like prepared food or beverage to using an exchange approach. From that point of view, okay, we started to think about why we should, what are the main challenges that has rural communities to ensure that they will have access or they need to be digitalized. And the first point is that the population that we saw in rural areas during the last 50 years has a direct consequence on the expected, is a direct consequence, sorry, of the expected better life conditions that are searched by the people that decide to go to rural, to urban areas. That's also because they will have better access to work opportunities and other services like health, etc. That has made that that urban areas centralized more or less all the people in the almost all countries on the world. As a direct consequence of this migration process from rural areas to urban areas cannot support, has provided an environment where rural areas cannot be supported with investments in technological infrastructures, with the development of additional sources of jobs, etc. And the reason for that is because there is no people. And the small amount of people that stays in rural areas has additional problems. The first of it is this new anaphylistic and not federalist in digital aspects, but also they don't have access to knowledge and therefore on innovation. Furthermore, there is an additional point, and it's related to the demand aggregation. More and more of the products that are produced on rural areas must move to urban areas, leading also that there is a large dependence of these rural areas for non-rural goods. And of course, the telecom services at rural areas is very limited, if available, and usually only you will find telecommunication services near to urban areas or near to the communications or the ways that connect different cities in a country. Why we need to decentralize these rural areas? The first point, of course, is to provide efficiency, sustainability, and accuracy in the production of food. Meaning we need to know and to ensure that we produce at rural areas what we really need. Okay, but this production must also be done ensuring an environmental performance. That these two points together will create an environment where we can generate more attractive jobs for younger generations that will also be supported by decision taking based on the productivity and the community needs. Furthermore, if this is possible and we put it in place and the rural areas are digitalized, the agri-food production and distribution will ensure the transparency on the value chain, and also, and I think this is very important, there will be a fair relation between the cost and the benefit. Okay, an example for these movements and what we saw here in Spain, at least regarding the COVID pandemic. There were large movements of people from cities or urban areas to rural areas, but only if these rural areas were digitalized. And I'm sure that this is similar of examples which can be found around all Europe. Other examples about these European initiatives that ensures that the need of digitalized rural areas. The first one, or one of them, because there are many, is that Fraunhofer Institute demonstrated in the Digital Village projects the potential that provides digital technologies to link the peoples, the organizations, and the infrastructures to ensure growth not only economical growth, I mean grow in the broad sense of the human activities. Another case is the digital agenda in Spain that integrates the public sector, the broadband infrastructure needed to support the digital innovation and the skills related to that. Our approach inside Aurora. We believe that we should or we must focus on self-organized rural communities that are integrating clusters to provide an environment where they can offer rural resources and create collaborative rural ecosystems. For that, the digitalization of the farm markets will be a common contact point for all the communities and will ensure the collaboration between members and is focused or will enhance the integration of each of these communities. Therefore, our strategy is, first of all, enhance community integration by providing a digital farm market. This will ensure that they will have secure, private, and community-owned digital farm markets, and of course, the data related to it. This will also ensure that this digital farm market, or what we call in our rural community marketplaces, has a unique and common place where you can make, or where members of this market can make any kind of trading. I mean, buying, selling, exchanging, circular economy, whatever. We will also integrate in this commodity marketplaces each kind of goods, services, resources, and data to provide them as commodities. That means once we have this data, or once a community has his data, he can identify the local needs and decide how to develop, based on these needs, additional business opportunities. Furthermore, once established and commodity marketplace, and that is based on a fair prices based on cost benefit, for sure you can start the integration process with other regional and urban marketplaces, or even only allow participation of external people in your marketplace. That will ensure sustainability and eco-friendly use of the local resources. Additionally, the goods are created based on the real requirements, not only inside your collaboration environment or your cluster, but also based on the needs this marketplace received from outside. It will allow also the creation of innovative financial services that will support the development and the infrastructures, the deployment of infrastructures needed for this creation of new goods and services. And an important point that we are taking into account is that professional services will be also integrated. Professional services includes, for example, shoe repair or home assistance, etc. These increased smart village ecosystems will integrate everything. Okay, goods, products, services, are they professional or not, and allow the exchange of them between all the members involved in a marketplace. And finally, the data creation that is resulting from these exchanges of trading will be translated or converted in a commodity that can be traded by the community. As conclusion, oh, that was fast, okay. And as conclusion, I will take in some way a proposition from the European Union that says that the digital technologies are key for rural communities because they make them more attractive, smarter, and sustainable. They reduce the issues related to remoteness. They ensure the access to better life conditions, and they support the climate change objectives that has Europe in place today. And that's it from my side. I don't know, do you have any question?
Thank you, Martin. I believe we have one on the chat from Asbjørn Hovstad. The question is, rural areas are non-urban areas, but how do we distinguish between the very small, sparsely populated areas and the need for knowledge on modern technologies?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay, I can repeat. So it says that rural areas are non-urban areas. And so how do we distinguish between the very small, sparsely populated areas and the need for knowledge on modern technologies?
Okay, from my point of view, we should not make the differentiation between rural and urban areas. We should talk about communities and how we organize or how a community organizes itself will define how it will interact with the other external world. That means our rural areas is easily to convert in a smart village, but if it is integrated with other rural areas and they can exchange between them goods, services, data, etc., it's not more rural areas. You're only a place where you have more space for human beings. That's my point of view, at least.
Okay, thank you. Just a comment. You were mentioning that in Spain there was quite some migration regarding from the urban to the more rural areas. If there was telecommunication infrastructure, that has also been the case in Portugal. We have been in contact with many of the mayors of rural areas, also, and foremost because of our rural project, and we have been getting that feedback as well. So if people have the infrastructure present, they are staying, and many of them are actually migrating in a permanent basis. I would just like to ask you one more question. If anyone else has a question, please let me know. If not, I would just ask you, Martin, from your point of view, do you think that the smart communities, let's use that term, I believe that's it could be the best one, will be a data-driven thing? I'm liking the word, but do you think that data will shape how the smart communities are created?
Okay, let me say, from one point of view, the smart communities will be the generators of the data. But at the same time, this data can be used to identify opportunities for other smart communities or for other communities, let me say so, before they are smart. Mm-hmm. The point here is, before we have this case, we need to provide these communities with the tools and services that allow them to make the usual way to work easier. And from that point of view, starting point, you will continue creating a continuous growing source of data. And this source of data should be owned by the community and should translate in a commodity that this community can sell or share or exchange with other communities or with external organizations. That's my point of view. Yes?
It can be seen as a resource,
right,
as any other.
That means that you can have a rural area that demonstrates with results that they are profitable, that they can grow, that they can provide what they need inside, but also a surplus that can be sold outside the community, and allow other groups of people to identify rural areas where they will try to do something similar. Not with the same goods, it's not needed, but something similar.
Okay, thank you for your point of view. We will now have the presentation from Thanasis Trifaridis. As I was saying before, he will not be present, and so I will be just sharing the presentation that he kindly recorded so that we can share. Okay. Hopefully you will see my screen.
Hello everybody, my name is Athanasios Trifaridis. I'm a Senior Research Associate in the Center for Research and Technology Hellas, and more particularly coming from the Information Technologies Institute. And I'm here today to present within the scope of the overall European funded project how we're going to be tackling with offering trusted data sharing in smart rural economy. Starting from where we are today, we can see that there is a need and a trend towards transforming areas into smart, let's say, areas. And we can see that there is quite a lot already being doing in the urban areas domain, where we have cities as the forerunners in this digital transformation towards what we used to call smart cities. And this is evident also in the fact that some key prerequisites are already there that are enabling this transformation. For example, we have very good coverage of broadband connectivity. There are many data available coming from many kinds of sensors already deployed in different areas, for example, in the transport, in the mobility, in local municipality and authorities domains, from pollution, air quality, etc. So the digitalization process is already quite significantly high in many cities, and also there is a quite good stakeholder awareness on the domain when we are talking about both the authorities and the municipality officers, and also the citizens of cities themselves. While when we try to address this from the rural perspective and what is going on in the rural areas, it is evident that it's not simple, let's say, transposing of the smart cities paradigm to a rural setting, because this will simply not be able to work, since there are many different requirements, and also being due to the fact that the needs and the local knowledge is quite different. And there are many challenges in fundamental aspects in the rural ecosystem, coming to not having a good coverage and, of internet access and connectivity in all areas, due to the fact that the digitalization process is still lacking in many different domains, and also the standardization of some rural domains is already quite mature. There is a significant lack of devices that could and sensors that could offer data in a digital manner that is the basis, let's say, of what we will be needing in order to do this. And most importantly, due to the lack of readiness of the rural population themselves in terms of both digital awareness and also IT literature and more general education that will be a requirement in order to persuade these people and in order to push these communities towards making the required steps towards this transition. Trying to go a bit deeper, we can see that very easily that data is the key enabler for such a digital transformation, and it's going to be the basis for the smartification of rural businesses and the digitalization of everyday activities. In order to make this more clear, first of all, it is very important to invest in many different domains in the rural ecosystems in the creation and the offering of such data in a digital manner, either coming from deployed IoT sensors and different topologies to provide data in a digital manner, or by simply digitalizing already available data and coming from the monitoring of the everyday business operation, which will further allow the tracking of historical information from the field that will indeed be very important in order to leverage from the processing, from the digital processing of such data, and in particular from the added value that can come by using technology-driven digital processing, for example, by capitalizing on the use of big data analytics or artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques. Further on, by enabling collaboration with different entities, therefore by being able to share such data through, on one hand, the technology perspective of interoperability, and from the other hand, also by offering trust to the data owners and securing that what they will be sharing will be done in a manner that will be fully under their control, and therefore to allow the trust needed for such transactions to take place. And finally, by further enabling such data in the participation of other kind of services, for example, for marketplace services, where we can even talk about the commoditization of rural products and services. So, what we will be trying to deliver and what is the aim of the Auroral project is to deliver a dynamic digital environment for integration of smart objects in rural ecosystems, and to do so we will be building on top of a federated IoT architecture, trying to bridge the interoperability gap that is existing in rural areas in order to offer flexible integration of heterogeneous data and services in many different cross-domains and many different kinds of applications. And since our main aim today is to talk about data, in this sense, we are going to be capitalizing on the use of semantics and the Web of Things standardization in order to offer an out-of-the-box experience of interoperability in a different kind of data to be shared and to be integrated into different applications. And by using a security by design approach with the use of smart contracts and distributed ledger technologies, we will be aiming to offer a trusted framework so as to guarantee that to data owners that they will be able to have a fully fledged access control to their data to be shared with other entities, so that they are going to be feeling very secure of what, with whom, and for how long they are sharing their data that could be also sensitive or private or corporate data, fully respecting the mandates of the GDPR of the European Commission, in order to promote the seamless integration also of third-party horizontal services that could be offering added value to the everyday operation of the local businesses. And finally, if we manage to move a step further, also to demonstrate the creation of an innovative digital rural commodities marketplace where different players, different stakeholders, different end users can participate in this kind of sharing and participation of exchange of products, services, and other kind of offerings within a digital ecosystem. So, trying to present a high-level overview of the Auroral vision in order to be able to offer this cross-domain active collaboration within this digital rural ecosystem, we can have the example of, for example, a farmer where they can be offering some data coming from sensors, for example, wearable sensors or tracking sensors of the animal, or deployed sensors on the crops to monitor, for example, the soil or moisture of the soil. Or if we're talking about the energy domain, where we can have local energy producers being willing to share energy data in order to participate into an energy trading scheme, we can see how horizontal services coming from third-party external entities that are going to be using, for example, data processing and ICT techniques, could be the ones to allow the processing of such data and to enable the participation into peer-to-peer trading services, and on top of this, to be able to enable the creation of marketplaces for the commoditization of such services, where, for example, we can see how all these can come together and collaborate smoothly between them in order to participate in common energy trading or flexibility services markets, and in order to be able to move towards an integrated overall approach of how they can collaborate. And to do so, this will be made possible by adding this technical layer, this oral data brokerage middleware in between, which is going to be the basis for offering interoperability as a service to the different ends, from the vertical to the horizontal and to the marketplace entities, all of which is going to be easily done by the deployment of small, let's say, technical components, and through the use of easy configurable open APIs. And for sure, this is planned to be extended in order to cover different domains, for example, moving from mobility domains for e-buses and logistic operators to health and assisted living domains, and also to local authorities providers to offer tourism and other kind of services. And as we move on to the horizontal services, we can see room for offering optimization of logistics, for example, by using artificial intelligence or prediction techniques, or analysis of medical data in order to offer assisted, let's say, coupling and matching of different services. And further on, by moving to the marketplace-oriented services, we can see how different kind of operators, from transport to logistics and medicals, or even end users such as tourists, can, in the end, be part of these ecosystems and be able to take advantage of the participation into such open collaborative schemes. And I'm going to be closing my presentation by giving an overview of what we are planning to do in terms of large-scale demonstration within the Aurora project. So we already have 8 different pilot demonstrations. We're going to be featuring both cross-domain and targeted domain integration of offering of different kinds of services, which are planned to be ranged from open access smart energy collaboration schemes, where we can further offer cross-sectoral eco-energy touristic services to be demonstrated in Sweden, Italy, and Austria. Then intelligent communal logistic optimization based on data systems and sustainable mobility services to be demonstrated in Finland, Austria, and Norway. We will be showcasing in Spain how precision dairy farming for smart farming activities can be possible, and how further agroforestry residues can be participating in cyclic economic services. Moving onward, we will be showcasing some e-health, the offering of e-health integrated services in a pilot site in Norway. And finally, to show how socio-ecotourism could be made possible by offering culture and heritage digital services to be demonstrated in Norway, Portugal, and Austria. And you can see here a high-level overview of the different pilots planned within the scope of this project. So, thank you very much for attending this session and for following up on my presentation. In case you need any further information, you can see my contact details on below this slide. So, thank you very much.
Okay, so we just had Thanas's presentation, which, even not being here, I think for keeping up on the time. I would like now to open the floor for some discussion. I see that there is some messages being sent, and so I wish to welcome all of our participants, well, not only the speakers, to have a say, to have some comment regarding the usage of data on the smart communities, and not only so the data itself. I'm trying to bring the discussion to from the chat to the floor, and maybe adding one more participant, let's say, to the data ecosystem. How can we start? How can communities start to develop a data culture, and also bring the government structure to be around data? So how can the government and the policies that are being developed and actually being deployed on communities be around data, so that we can have possibly a smart community because of these policies that may be data driven? I don't know if anyone can comment or wants to comment on this.
May I?
Yes, of
Martin
course.
speaking. Okay. What we are proposing, more or less, is to digitalize farm markets. Farm markets is something that is well known in rural communities, not only rural communities, but also in many communities in urban areas. You have a periodic farm market where the farmers try to sell products. The advantage we are providing when we digitalize these interactions between farmers and people that are doing things is that you don't need to have a specific place where you make the transactions. You have a place in the cloud where you can go in when you want, not only periodically, and you can try to sell something or to buy something or to trade something or to exchange something. Okay, and this is data. This is more or less always translated in data. This data is therefore stored inside this community marketplace, and therefore available to understand what is the community doing. Meaning, first, the community will be interested in how to improve themselves, how they can grow, what they need additionally. But once this has been more or less covered, you will have a very large amount of data that could be interesting for others. As you asked previously, another community that is trying to consolidate themselves can try to use this data to develop their community, to understand how to develop their communities. But a company that is a large producer of specific goods, let me say shoes or pants, okay, will also try to buy or will be also interested in this data to understand they need to plan production for the next months or years, okay, based on the needs of a community. And at this moment, each community can decide if they want to use their data to make additional trades and therefore translating the data in commodities, or if they will not share the data. Or they can decide the rules to share this data. The idea is the digitalization of farm markets will allow the evolution of all these rural ecosystems around first goods, needs, and that, but at the end, on data.
Thank you for your point, Martin. Do you believe that this can be a completely separate reality, let's say, from the government structure, or should the let's say the data community be different from the or at least not be different, but be separate from the community in the let's say more traditional way of a community with the governments and in the digital geographical space and so on? Do you think that they are separate realities and they can should keep separate, or do you think that they will intertwine and eventually feedback each other with and creating knowledge and growing with each other?
Okay, in my opinion, I think that there is a large evolution in all the context of governance in Europe. We started to have a centralized governance that tries to force all the communities to follow some rules, and we have laws. A community has the advantage that we 5, 10, 20 members together, it must not be a town nor a complete rural areas, decided to exchange between them. As long as they accomplish with the legal framework that applies to their activities, there is no problem. They don't need to the intervention of the governance. But there can be rural government people that I'll decide to push this kind of communities and ensure that the investment is available and ensure that they will be involved. And in this case, it's again, we agreed between us how we will manage our relations. Yes, why not? A government can be there and decide or push to improve or make better or evolve the community there that is existing.
Thank you for your thoughts. And I would like to welcome again our guests, let's say, to have a question or a comment regarding the discussion that we are having here.
Yes, just as Björn hopes to hear, just to be a bit practical. Well, I have a small farm. I have 2 fish dams, fish ponds, each with a lot of fish. And of course, I read from Unparallel that they have very good use cases for how I can manage this fish pond quality and the fish growth and feeding. I have some goose in the farm. They are, of course, going into the fish dam, feeding themselves what they want, and coming with eggs and even small goose, and the same with chicken and so on. So this is really variable data, but they are fresh data. So the quality from the farmer should be on the market, let's say, the day before they are in the market. So actually we can sell them before we have them really. I think this is the same as we have in the energy market, the day ahead price, you know, when if you are on the spot market for energy. So you will get like an auction actually for these commodities. But then I need this market not only with other farmers but with the shops and city people as well to be you need to be connected to urban systems. So it's just how could this data be actually formulated, or it has to be go into systems and so on. It's not only free text, which the farmer data is. So we need to have this a bit practical for the local farmers, what they can benefit. So this just to be a bit practical, but I think we will solve that with the use cases on smart farming as well. So this is first step. So I'm curious how we can continue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I believe that is indeed one of our goals, to address that reality and to assist the farmers, and not only the farmers, but all the people in the communities. In this case, the rural communities that would like to address and to make better use or making use of the data that they can produce, and eventually to feed that model that Martin was presenting, and so bringing it to reality. Anyone else would like to share a comment? Well, I believe that no one else is having any more comments. Well, being that the case, I would like to thank you all very much for being with us, particularly to our speakers and our rapporteurs, and also welcome you to attend in our other thematic tables. There will be another day tomorrow with thematic tables on the morning and also in the afternoon, and also of course on the rest of the summit, which hopefully will bring these smart communities and interoperable data ecosystems to reality on the course of Auroral, and eventually also the rural projects that are co-organizers of this conference, along with OASC and Alentejo. Once again, thank you so very much for being with us, and hopefully I will see you again in other sessions that we will be having. Thank you.
Thanks to you, and take care.
All right.
Goodbye.
Thank you for the meeting. Bye-bye.